This is the Reviewing Network Live, a weekly stream of consciousness recording session where I sit back with you folks out there, talk about some of the big news stories from the past week, and some other things I found that might be of amusement to you out there. I think you might get a kick out of it. Now, these are more like audio podcasts and are much longer than my usual videos and are also for the most part unedited and will contain some foul language. So, if you're easily offended by that, I advise you to maybe step back a bit, maybe go somewhere else. But hey, if you're up to the challenge, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thanks. And for the 118th time, we are live from the Reviewing Network studios. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Reviewing Network Live, as we're about to close out November and head into the last month of the year, December. Christmas time is upon us. How was your Thanksgiving weekend? And, how was your Thanksgiving weekend? I'm very curious. Let me know down below. You don't have to. I'm just trying to stretch the time out of here, this intro here. But, hard to believe we are already at the end of 2025 already. We're almost there, 1 month away from a new year beginning. It really feels like the year just got started, and then all of a sudden, time flies when you're having fun, I guess. I'm not having fun per se, but someone out there in the universe is having fun. But we do have some stuff to talk about this week in the world of movies. We have some stuff in the world of sports that I thought was kind of intriguing to talk about. We had one of the big premiere events of the year this week happened, and that was, of course, the final season of Stranger Things got underway the week on Wednesday, and I saw the first couple of episodes. I'll talk about my brief thoughts on those, but we have a lot to get to here, so let's not waste any more time and jump right on into what we usually start off with here, and that is the weekend box office. And the box office in general was about what you expected to be. Very lucrative on this Thanksgiving weekend. Thanksgiving Day itself is not usually going to be the busiest time of the weekend, but big weekend overall when you really look at all the numbers that we have here. And we're going to take a look at both the 3-day weekend numbers as well as the 5-day numbers here for this particular weekend of Thanksgiving. And there's a lot of notable things about, especially the number one movie that we're going to get to as we move along here. But to start things off, we go down to number 5 here, and we have The Running Man still hanging in there with $3.7 million for the 3-day weekend. $34.2 million in total. That's the 3-day totals. Dropping 35% from last week, which isn't that bad overall. But if you include 5-day numbers, it is at $5.5 million for the weekend. And it looks like all the numbers that I see here for the total gross are the same as the 3-day numbers here. So take that for what you will. Speaking of movies that are hanging in there, number 4, Predator Badlands, $4.8 million this weekend, only dropping 26% from last weekend. Up to $85 million. The 5-day total for Predator Badlands is set $6.6 million, so that film is still doing very well. It kind of touched on Predator Badlands and The Running Man the last couple weeks, so I don't really need to touch on them anymore. Number 3, Now You See Me, Now You Don't. And people are still going to see this to reasons that are beyond me. I still don't get it with these movies. $7 million for the 3-day total this weekend, 22% drop off from last week, $49.6 million after 3 weeks. If you count the 5-day totals, it's at $10 million even for the 5-day weekend for Now You See Me, Now You Don't. And then moving on now, we had the number 1 movie from last week, which is number 2 this week, and that is Wicked for Good. And the news is certainly good for Wicked's box office numbers. Lost my train of thought there for a second. Wicked for Good. Second weekend, $62.8 million, dropping 57% from last weekend, bringing its 2-week total now to $270.4 million. If you account the 5-day numbers, it's at $93 million for the weekend. And comparing it to Wicked's opening last weekend, Wicked was at $263.1 million last weekend at this time. So it is moving a little bit. It is actually ahead of Wicked for Good by just a little bit, about $7 million. And considering the competition doesn't get too intense for this or the number 1 movie for the next couple of weeks, it should be on pace to possibly top that overall. But I did finally see it this weekend. Yeah, Wicked for Good was pretty good overall. There was a lot of concerns about how the film had an end. It's the third act of it's going to split people who didn't see the Broadway musical, or just coming in from the movie in general. what I saw from them, I don't think it was the best way to overall end it, but I thought it ended on a good note overall to make me still say, yeah, this is still a really good movie overall. I really enjoyed. I enjoyed about as much as I did the original Wicked movie. I thought it was a ton of fun. Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo are very fun to watch as the two main characters. Jeff Goldblum's Wicked Oz character gets a bigger boost in this one here. I thought it was an overall really good movie. I think it is a very solid film overall. About on par with the first movie in general, so yeah, I really enjoyed the hell out of this one, so I'll touch more onto this in my review for, which I'm going to have to post on Monday, because it's been a busy day around here, and I've just been putting up videos one by one. I put the new Movie Stop episode up today. I did the new Time About the Movies beforehand, and now I'm doing this, so yeah, there's going to be a lot of finagling with the schedule this week, my usual schedule this week, so talking about the movies will be coming up tomorrow, so stay tuned for that over on the main channel, but I'll talk about Wicked for Good there, and I'll also talk about the #1 movie this weekend, which is let's just say it's a much better Disney sequel that came out this weekend than last year's Moana 2, and that is Zootopia 2. 3-day numbers, $96.8 million, but if you count the 5-day totals, $156 million, which makes it the second highest grossing Thanksgiving weekend, only behind Moana 2. And I'm going to go on the records here in just a little bit here, because I have a page here from Deadline Hollywood that talks about all the records here, including the global numbers. So, but those are the ones you don't really want to know about. You want to know about the domestic numbers in total. So, but yeah, Zootopia 2, I really enjoyed it. And like I said, it's definitely a much better sequel to come out on Thanksgiving by Disney than Moana 2 was last year. Zootopia 2 actually felt like a real movie. It felt like a real film. It didn't feel like a film that was taken from a TV show that was canceled by Disney Plus, and so they just said, we need to make money fast, chop this series up into a movie, and we can try to sell it to people, which Moana 2 was, and that failed miserably. Zootopia 2 does not do that. I don't think it's as good as the first Zootopia movie, but the first Zootopia movie is such a masterpiece that is so hard to really top, and yeah, it's going to be hard to top a great movie like that, so yeah, I wasn't expecting this one to be better than that film, but it's still really good overall. Like I said, I'll touch more on that along with Wicked for Good tomorrow. And so, what about those records that the movie broke? Because this thing did break several records. Here, Deadline Hollywood has the article here about all the box office records broken. I wasn't going to touch on the global numbers here, but I mean, global animated opening of all time, beating Niza 2, which came out here in the States, didn't do very well, but that's where it's current at right now, $556 million ahead of China's Niza 2. It is the 4th highest global opening of all time, and Disney owns 3 of the other top 4, which are all Marvel movies, Avengers Endgame, Infinity War, and Spider-Man No Way Home. The highest global debut of 2025 ahead of Niza 2. Highest global opening for an animated sequel ever ahead of Moana 2. Disney owns the top 5. And it's also the highest global opening ever for Disney Animation Studios behind Moana 2. Ahead of Moana 2, excuse me. Highest global opening for any animated film in Disney history. Highest global sequel opening of 2025 and since 2021, previous being No Way Home. Biggest opening weekend increase from original to sequel for any animated franchise, 239%. #1 movie globally, domestically, and internationally for the weekend. And the domestic numbers, second highest Thanksgiving day of all time behind Moana 2's $225.4 million. Second highest Thanksgiving opening ever behind Moana 2, 3-day was $139.7. Second highest Black Friday of all time at $38.5 million after Moana 2's $54.3 million. Second highest domestic Wednesday before Thanksgiving of all time at $39.5 million behind Moana 2. Second highest preview grossing for Walt Disney's sequel behind Moana 2. Third highest 3-day domestic opening in history after Moana 2 and Frozen 2. Disney holds 9 of the top 10 Thanksgiving opening weekends of all time, and Disney holds top 8 Thanksgiving opening weekends. Broke a number of records in China, mostly the 6th highest opening of all time. 6th highest opening of all time in China amongst all films, both local and non-local. Second best non-local film opening of all time in China. Highest animated opening of all time in China. Already highest non-local film cume in China. Highest non-local animated film of all time. 4th highest animated film of all time between local and non-local after only 5 days. Already surpassed the total cume of Zootopia, which is 100 with RMB 1,530 M. I don't know what at the top of my head, I don't know what the currency is right now, but in 5 days, that's what it did. Ninth highest single-day gross of all time for films both local and foreign. Highest single-day gross of an all-time film for an MPA film, surpassing Avengers Endgame. Highest MPA opening in 2025. So this broke a ton of records overall. And yeah, like I said, it's definitely the much better sequel to come out on Thanksgiving than Moana 2 was. That certainly is something. But for at least the next couple of weeks, it'll be Zootopia 2 and Wicked for Good. More than likely going to be switching out the top spot overall. I wouldn't be surprised if Wicked for Good finds its way back into the #1 spot again before Avatar comes out. But yeah, other than that, though, the next couple of weeks are going to be very light overall. I think the next big one that we've got here is Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which comes out on December 5th. And while that should do good business, I don't think it's going to be enough to usurp Wicked or Zootopia at the box office in general here. But we'll see what happens with that one. I don't know if opening it on December 5th is probably the right decision for that film, the weekend after Thanksgiving, but who knows? Maybe Universal knows something that we don't know, But anyway, that is the weekend box office as a whole, about what you expect overall, and it was a good weekend for the movies, and they desperately needed it after the lackluster couple months they've had overall. But with all that said, let's go ahead and get into some of the few movie stories that we have worth talking about this week. So first off this week, we have a story about news about the long-awaited new Exorcist film from director Mike Flanagan. This was a movie that was announced shortly after the last Exorcist movie didn't do very well. They had set a date for April of 2026, but that's been pushed back. But we are finally getting some news that this is officially moving forward, as now Scarlett Johansson has been officially casted to star in the new Exorcist film for director Mike Flanagan. This comes from the Hollywood Reporter, and it says, Scarlett Johansson will star in Mike Flanagan's fresh, bold take on The Exorcist. Blumhouse and Universal are behind the latest attempt to revive the horror franchise, which follows the company's ill-fated efforts to launch a franchise with 2023's The Exorcist Believer. Flanagan wrote the script and is directing and producing the new feature that is not a remake nor a sequel, but set in the Exorcist universe, whatever that entails. The original Exorcist, based off the novel by William Peter Blatty and directed by William Friedkin, focuses on the demonic possession of a young girl and the priest that try to save her. The film was nominated for 10 Oscars. The various follow-ups mostly featured stories centering on the girl, now grown up, the backstories of the priest, and other demonic cases detectives for the first movie investigated. The Exorcist is one of the reasons I became a filmmaker, and it is an honor to have the chance to try something fresh, bold, and terrifying within its universe, is how Flanagan described the project when his involvement was announced in May 2024. At the time, David Robinson, chairman and CEO of Exorcist rights holder Morgan Creek, said, I think his vision for the franchise is going to stun audiences worldwide. Details on the take are being kept strapped to the bed. Flanagan, who is known for directing Stephen King adaptations such as Dr. Sleep and Gerald's Game, as well as creating TV shows such as Midnight Mass and The Haunting of Hill House, is producing by his Red Room Pictures banner. David Robinson is producing for Morgan Creek Entertainment, while Jason Blum and Ryan Turek serve as producer and executive producer respectively for Blumhouse. Johansson last starred in Universal's Jurassic World Rebirth, which grossed $868 million worldwide, and proved the studio's long-standing Dino movie series still has the chops when it comes to attracting audiences. I mean, it really wasn't because of Scarlett Johansson, I don't think, but hey, a chance to put, Scarlett Johansson is a great actress, and she has a chance to work with a great director in Mike Flanagan to basically fix the Exorcist movies after the abysmal Exorcist Believer, which was supposed to be the start of a trilogy with the people who made Halloween, and it turned out that didn't even make it past one film, and that movie failed miserably. So yeah, I'm more than confident in this overall. I think Mike Flanagan has proven that time and time again that he is an excellent horror director and just a great director in general. I mean, this is the guy that gave us Oculus, the guy that revitalized the Shining franchise with Dr. Sleep, The Haunting of Hill House that they just mentioned in there. The guy is a solid freaking director, and he knows exactly what he's doing. So naturally, I'm excited to see what happens with this, no matter what it gets involved in. Hopefully, they can make us completely forget about that abysmal mess of a film that was The Exorcist Believer, because yeah, that was just a really, really bad movie, man. So that's that story. Moving on to our next one here, and yeah, the world is completely messed up now when our commander-in-chief is spending more of his time not trying to make the country better or fix the problems of the world, but no, going to his good buddy Larry Ellison and telling his son at Paramount now, who runs Paramount, to make a sequel that nobody was asking for and make it a reality. Because if you remember, on Monday, President Donald Trump made a big thing about going online and saying that there needs to be a new Rush Hour movie because the demand is so there, says no one ever. But lo and behold, the following day, not but one day after he says this, Paramount is closing in on a deal to distribute Rush Hour 4. Like, of all the things to do when you're the President of the United States, this is the first thing you want? Really? This comes from the Hollywood Reporter again. In a move sure to send shockwaves through Hollywood, Paramount is closing in on a deal to distribute Rush Hour 4, which would mark the big studio return of disgraced director Brett Ratner. If the deal makes, Paramount would be distributing the sequel and would receive a distribution fee. It would not be financing the movie. The potential film, which would bring back now aging stars Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker, would be Ratner's first narrative feature since being accused of sexual misconduct in 2017. After a career as a successful music video and commercial director, Ratner's big break came with the first Rush Hour film in 1998. He directed the next two movies, with a collective franchise gross of more than $500 million at the domestic box office alone. He was banished from Hollywood in 2017 when 6 women accused Ratner of sexual misconduct as part of a Los Angeles Times report. The story included allegations of forced oral sex by actresses Natasha Henstridge, while Olivia Munn claimed that the director masturbated in front of her after she was tasked with delivering food to his trailer on set while she was an aspiring actress. Ratner has denied wrongdoing. Ratner has remained a point of controversy for years, with no studio willing to hire him for any project or tackle Rush Hour 4. Still, he and his partners have continued to shop the project to studios and streamers, including Sony and Lionsgate, as well as Paramount under its previous administration. Last year, multiple sources told The Hollywood Reporter that Warner Brothers, the longtime distributor of the Rush Hour films that were homegrown by Warner's New Line Cinema division, allowed Rush Hour 4 to be licensed elsewhere years prior. Ratner got a foothold back in Hollywood earlier this year when it was announced that Ratner would be directing a documentary about First Lady Melania Trump that was acquired for release by Amazon. The doc from Ratner, his first film since he was accused of sexual misconduct and harassment, has been produced with Trump's participation. The film will later be accompanied by a 3-part docuseries. Trump may have held the keys to Ratner's Rush Hour reversal of fortune. The move reportedly comes after a push from President Donald Trump, who has strong ties to Larry Ellison and son David Ellison, the latter who runs Skydance, Paramount's newest owner. Center 4 reports Sunday that Trump personally pressed Paramount to revive Rush Hour, as well as Jean-Claude Van Damme action near Bloodsport, as the Ellisons eye an acquisition of Warner Brothers. So there you go, folks. That's what our politics are doing right now. Getting out sequels nobody was asking for. Who the fuck, besides our current administration, wants to see a Rush Hour 4 in 2025? This is without a doubt one of the stupidest decisions ever. Nobody wants to see comedy sequels that are way past the point of the last movie. It's been 18 years since the last Rush Hour movie. Nobody cares anymore. Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker have moved on since then. They don't want to do another one of these movies. They want to be known for other movies besides doing another one of these films again. Like, look at what Chris Tucker's done since Rush Hour ended. He's gone into more dramatic roles. He's been good in some of them. Silver Linings Playbook he was really good in. Jackie Chan can still be a badass in other action movies. I mean, though to be fair, his sequels would probably be much better than something like The Nut Job 2, which he was in. Oh, by the way, they're making a Nut Job 3 now because, why the fuck not? But I don't know. Like, the whole thing to me just seems really stupid. And the fact that it's not even the fact that the sequel's getting made. It's just basically saying that basically our president is now a movie executive, is now a major movie executive who could basically tell Paramount, do whatever movie I want you to make. Because, yeah, this is only the beginning, folks. I can't wait to see what other movie he's going to force Larry Ellison and his company to make now at this point. And yeah, this is part of the reason why I think a lot of people would not want Paramount to be owned by Warner Brothers, because who knows what kind of hell he's going to put they're going to put that studio through with him with Trump in the Trump administration time period. But yeah, to me, this is one of the stupidest decisions ever, and it was made not because there was a demand for Rush Hour 4, but because the commander-in-chief wants to see another one of these movies. It's just like, it just makes no sense, man. I just don't get it. So speaking of sequels, most people probably weren't asking for it, but at least I could see a reasoning for why a Shrek 5 makes sense rather than a Rush Hour 4. During the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade on Thursday, we got some casting news about Shrek 5. We already knew that Zendaya was going to be playing the daughter of Shrek in the new movie, but we didn't know what happened with his two sons, Fergus and Farkle. Or were they not going to be in the movie? Were they just going to be like retconned out of there, or what was going on? Well, we found out today, or we found out this week, I should say, that not only will they be back in there, but they've already assembled a voice cast behind them. This comes from Variety, and it says, Marcello, Hernandez, and Skyler Gisondo are heading to the land of far, far away. The two actors are set to join the cast of Shrek 5 as Shrek and Fiona's sons Fergus and Farkle. Hernandez is best known for his work on Saturday Night Live. He also appeared in the sequel Happy Gilmore 2, and is set to star in the upcoming comedy 72 Hours. Gisondo played Jimmy Olsen in last summer's Superman and also has supporting roles in Licorice Pizza and Booksmart. Universal announced that DreamWorks Animation's Shrek 5 will release on June 30th, 2027. The franchise's vocal cast of Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz are set to return as Shrek, Donkey, and Fiona. Zendaya is also joining the Ogre Fun as Shrek and Fiona's daughter, Felicia. Rebooting Shrek has been a priority for the studio and Chris Meledandri, the head of Illumination and the man behind the Despicable Me franchise, as well as the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Shrek 5 will be directed by Conrad Vernon and Walt Doran. Vernon's directing credits included Shrek 2 and Madagascar 2, and he's also the voice of Gingy. Doran worked on the second and third Shrek films as a writer and artist, and had a story on the fourth film. Doran also voiced Rumpelstiltskin. So essentially, it basically denies the rumors that the two Shrek's sons in the movie were going to be phased out or were even going to exist anymore. This basically says that, yeah, they're pretty much in there. So, not much more to say about that one in general here. That was one of the stories that broke whenever the Shrek Parade Float was at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade on Thursday. So let's get an update now on the Warner Brothers Discovery sales in general here, because the first round of bids is already in, and the second round of bids are actually due tomorrow, according to Deadline Hollywood. It says here, Warner Brothers Discovery has asked bidders to submit a sweetened second round of offers by Monday, December 1st, which is tomorrow. Media giant led by CEO David Zaslav has been sitting on the first round of non-binding bids since November 20th. As reported, Paramount Skydance is offering to buy the entire company, while Netflix and Comcast are looking to acquire the WB Film and TV studios and HBO Max. Warner Brothers Discovery has indicated that it believes the sale process can be concluded by late December, although the transaction may require at least a year to be cleared by regulators. Bankers and executives on both coasts will be working overtime as new offers are due right after the long Thanksgiving holiday weekend. The bidders previously signed non-disclosure agreements and have been examining Warner's books. The company launched a formal auction process earlier this year after receiving 3 bids from Paramount, which itself was just acquired by David Ellison's Skydance in August. His father, billionaire many times over, and Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison is backing the bid. Comcast, which has a solid balance sheet, is in the process of spinning out the NBC Universal cable networks into a separate company called Versant in a transaction that should be completed early next year. The WB assets would reside with the parent company. Comcast in past decades have made separate attempts to acquire both Disney and Fox. WB has also pursued a former separation of its linear TV businesses from studios and streaming and still have the option to do so if it clinches a sale. Netflix, which has done very few big deals, prefers to grow organically, which was a bit of a surprise bidder in the process. Bloomberg first reported the new deadline, and since then we've had an update on what Comcast is trying to do to sweeten the offer. Now, this comes from the New York Post, and let's see if this thing will actually allow me to read the storyline here. Because sometimes when you get onto websites like this, it'll give you you'll read it once, and then when you go back to the next time, it'll be like, you want to read the rest of this? Subscribe to us, and just like, no. Looks like it's going to let me do it. So here's what the latest is on Comcast, who, it says here, for those wagering against Comcast in the bidding war for Warner Brothers Discovery, the cable giant CEO Brian Roberts is signaling that he will see their bets and that he may raise them too. People with direct knowledge say that Roberts, scrambling to reinvigorate Comcast's shrinking empire, plans to join the second round of bidding next week for WBD, which owns the number 1 Hollywood studio, the number 3 streamer in HBO Max Plus, cable properties like HBO and CNN. Roberts is even weighing a potential offer that could catapult him ahead of his rivals, a bid that could possibly reach a valuation of $27 or $28 a share, according to the sources, and that's just for its studio and streaming businesses. To be sure, Roberts and his team have not, as of press time, come up with a final number, these people say, but it will bid to those levels. It will be a respective premium to the roughly $25 a share already placed by Paramount Skydance for the entire company, an offer worth about $60 billion. It would also likely surpass the first-round bid made by Netflix, which is also vying for the studio and streaming prices at WBD, according to people with knowledge of the matter. One thing is for certain. Roberts knows he needs to play hardball to win, these sources say. He's making a run at WBD despite extreme reluctancy from the Trump administration to approve anything Roberts touches, given his long stewardship of the Trump-hating cable channel MS Now. Plus, he is said to believe that he has no choice given Comcast its challenges: a lagging stream service in Peacock, a second-place network in NBC, and a smaller studio on top of lots of debt as he spins off MS Now and other cable companies into a new company. He has cable pipes, but that's seen as a declining business. Rich Greenfield, the widely followed AXA media analyst at Lightship Partners, believes Comcast needs to fight hard for WBD or face being run over by bigger media and tech players. Can you imagine what happens if Comcast loses? What happens to Peacock? He tells On the Money. They will be the only ones on the dance floor with no obvious partner. The thinking is that with a leading bid, Roberts may be able to get to the green light from the... I was reading and the pop-up came up. Where is it? There it is. Stupid pop-up ads. The thinking is that with a leading bid, Roberts might be able to get the green light from the WBD board for a bid and then successfully challenge in federal court any rebuttal from the Trump DOJ antitrust department, arguing that in the age of multiple streaming services, content being offered on YouTube and social media, no significant antitrust issues exist with his offer. A Comcast spokesperson declined to comment. As the Post has reported, Netflix has launched its own charm offense to prove that its bid faces less regulatory scrutiny. Some members of the WB board are warming to the Netflix offer after hearing arguments from Netflix legal staff that normal antitrust concerns would not apply to the combination of its number one streamer in the world with WBD's number 3. That's because of something known as category ambiguity. It's impossible to corner the stream market through such combinations because of the reach on YouTube and social media. The Netflix bill allows Warner Brothers to spin off its cable assets as was previously planned, which is seen as another positive for its offer. Reps from Netflix and DOJ antitrust have no immediate comment. One problem for WBD in valuing the bids is that Comcast only wants its streaming service in studio, thus its overall value is derived from how much he's offering for those two units, so it's not quite an apple-to-apple comparison with the money being put up by Paramount Skydance. Roberts will also have to borrow or seek equity partners to finance his offer given Comcast's relatively modest balance sheet. Another complicating factor is the political opposition from Trump, who is said to be adamantly opposed to making Comcast stronger. Roberts could read the room and change his mind in the coming days as the second-round bidding deadline of December 1st approaches, people close to him tell me. That's because, to stay the course, he will have to play the long game and convince the WBD board to do the same through a 2-year process that includes a lengthy probe by the Trump-appointed DOJ antitrust chief Gail Slater, and then lawsuit in federal court where a win isn't a given. The WBD and CEO David Zaslav also might decide that they don't want to roll the dice with its bid for Trump to the company when it can simply sell everything to Paramount Skydance. Run by David Ellison and his father, the Trump-supporter mega-billionaire Larry Ellison. They will receive a far easier ride through the regulatory apparatus with Slater in their effort to buy the entire company, according to media executives with direct knowledge of the agency's thinking. So, basically Comcast is opening the floodgates and saying, we're going to do everything we can to try to get Warner Brothers away from Paramount, which, if we're being perfectly honest with you, that's probably the best direction for them to go to, because Comcast and Warner Brothers pretty much already are together, as I said before, with like other, the Harry Potter properties have been in Universal's parks for a long time. They were going to do Looney Tunes in Universal for a long period of time, but that never happened. So yeah, this would not be out of the realm of possibility for them to do. So, I'm if there's one of those three that I want to see them get through and do this, it's Comcast. I think Comcast is the best way to go. And knowing probably it's not going to happen, but it's just, of the three options, Comcast, Netflix, and Paramount, Comcast is just the way to go. That's my personal take on it, but we'll see how much longer this takes. They said they'll have a decision by the end of next month, so we'll hold them to it and see if that actually is the case. So those were all the big movie stories that I had for this week in general. There was a couple of other things that I thought were very interesting that were worth talking about. And we're going to start off with this one here, because this one was a doozy. Let's talk about Kendrick Perkins. Now, if you don't know who Kendrick Perkins is, he is an ESPN analyst, mostly known for working in the world of the NBA. He's a former basketball player who played for the Boston Celtics, won a championship with them, drafted by the Grizzlies, went to Oklahoma, was with Cleveland, New Orleans. He finished off his run in Cleveland, and then made the jump over to a broadcasting career in ESPN, where he's worked at, ESPN, of course, with NBA Today, Get Up, First Take, and Sports Center. But and he's made some takes that are very questionable. I mean, let's talk about one of his biggest "what the fuck are you talking about" takes of all time, when he was talking about the 2012 Los Angeles Lakers. Tell me if you remember this chestnut right here.
All all of these players, and you're telling me that they're not going to have a 60-win season?
Are the healthy Lakers your favorite to win the championship? Absolutely, the clear-cut favorite.
And you heard it first. It is September 29th. The LA Lakers stay healthy. We're going to be last team standing.
Done deal? It was based on the potential.
Matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they wouldn't scratch the surface of hitting a 70-win season.
Oh, now you're getting crazy. Come on.
And Laker fans were ecstatic when they heard from Coach Frank Vogel that Anthony Davis, he put a lot of work this offseason into his body. A lot of work.
I pay attention to the schedule. And the Lakers play 16 of their first 18 games in the Staples Center.
Just look at this lineup. Look at this lineup.
Now, you heard a bunch of other people in there, but that's from a video from a 2 for 1. And I couldn't find the exact moments in the video where they got to Kendrick Perkins talking about the Los Angeles Lakers of 2022. So that's why that video features some other voices in there. Like you hear Shannon Sharp in there, but he's saying, look at this lineup. There's no way this team could lose that many games. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and say they're going to win 70 games in a season, which, yeah, this is they didn't do any of that, obviously, if you remember the 2022 Los Angeles Lakers. But look at the lineup, they said. Yeah, Russell Westbrook, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Rajon Rondo, Carmelo Anthony, Malik Monk, Trey Horton-Tucker, DeAndre Jordan. I mean, it's Dwight Howard of all people. It's basically the equivalent of the 2025 Pittsburgh Steelers. It's like, yeah, this was a great team that you had 3 years ago, but not now. That's the best way you can describe the Steelers. AIDS, if you've been following the NFL Network videos I've been doing. But, yeah, watch their performance today against the Buffalo Bills and tell me that's not true either. But I just love how this dude is so, like, he looked at this team and said, they're going to win 70 games in the season. Like, it's, like, that's what you need to know before we go into somebody like Kendrick Perkins as a whole.
I pay attention to the schedule. And the Lakers play 16 of their first 18 games in the Staples Center.
Just look at this lineup. Look at this lineup.
Videos and pictures of the Lakers.
Yeah, look at this lineup. This lineup of people that are going to win 70 games and only won 43 of them and completely missed the playoffs in general. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the wrong one. I'm looking at the 2022 Lakers. They made the playoffs that year. 33 and 49, which is even worse. But, yeah, you get the idea. That's the type of person that we're heading into when we're talking about is Kendrick Perkins as a whole. And I bring this up because if you thought that was pushing it for just trying to get the clicks and views, what he said this past week about Shedeur Sanders was a doozy. Now, keep in mind, Shedeur Sanders had his first start on last Sunday against the Las Vegas Raiders, which it's the Las Vegas Raiders. It's not really something to gloat about. The Raiders are not a good football team at all. They're a terrible football team, so no wonder Shedeur Sanders won that game. Hell, anybody who's watching this right now could play the Las Vegas Raiders as themselves and could easily score 17 points on them easily, and they would not get not let them get any points on offense either. They could blow out the Raiders in general. So, I mean, good for Shedeur Sanders for getting the win, but let's not pretend like this was such a groundbreaking moment in time where Shedeur Sanders beat a really good football team. No, he beat the Raiders. It's not something to get that excited about. But I bring this up because this is from SportsCenter. It says, the hype for Cleveland Browns quarterback Shedeur Sanders has been felt all across social media lately. The hype has been growing for the man since his college days for the Colorado Buffaloes, and now that he's officially had his taste of NFL action, hype has reached an all-time high. ESPN analyst Kendrick Perkins has a major take over just how powerful Sanders' impact has been. Keep in mind that Kendrick Perkins was a former NBA player and has no reason to talk about the NFL in any way, shape, or form, because he doesn't know the NFL. But Kendrick Perkins said that the Browns' fifth-round pick Shedeur Sanders is the most powerful black man since Barack Obama. He's powerful black man since 2009. This was a real thing that this guy said. I wish I could find the video for it. Let me see if it's actually here. Is this it here? I don't know. Let me check for a sec. Yeah, this is it right here. Get ready to experience one of the biggest "what the fuck are you talking about" takes of all time.
Shedeur Sanders is the most powerful black man since 2009.
Because he beat the Raiders. He is saying this after they beat the Raiders. That was posted on November 25th. 2 days after they beat the Raiders.
You know what happened in 2009?
Right.
That's when President Obama got elected in office. He's the most powerful black man since 2009.
Like, okay. I don't think we need to compare the son of Deion Sanders to a president of the United States, especially when there have been far much more successful black men since 2009, especially in the world of sports and the world of entertainment. I mean, Michael B. Jordan, I could think of as somebody who's been very successful since then. Hell, Jordan Peele, look at this. Look at the empire he's built in the last 16 years since the time Barack Obama was president. But I mean, people who have made historical decisions since then are much more important than Shedeur Sanders is. Which, I mean, there's still about we're only 20 seconds in, and you can see the BS in this already.
You said you were sitting there watching the game in your house, and what you did? You ran with the TV.
Goddamn right.
Right? What was you doing, DB?
I was cheering. I was happy.
You was cheering like a motherfucker. When Shedeur Sanders is on the field, and when I say powerful because there's two sides of it, right? Think about it. Okay, you got the black community. He bringing the whole black community together.
Is he really? Like, I don't get. Like, I get it. He got screwed over in the NFL draft, but then again, it was mostly because his father, Deion Sanders, completely nuked the whole idea of how to be drafted into the NFL. He did that to him, and all Shedeur did was basically follow in his father's footsteps. But you can't do that in this NFL. You want to try to change the game, and you're not helping your case when you're going into buildings and telling people how you're going to do things. Is how you want the draft and all that. Like, remember, this is the guy that Brian Dable is called one of the worst draft experiences he ever had to work with here. So, like, let me just finish this up here.
I ain't ran across one black person that done said one bad thing about Shedeur.
We want him.
And guess what? Not one. Because he has the balance. He has the balance of that I'm arrogant, but I'm humble too.
Yeah.
Right?
He have fun with this shit.
And he having fun with the shit. And on top of that, y'all want me to say it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, he talking shit. I love that shit, bro.
He's the most powerful black man in sports. No other. Matter of fact, fuck black man. He's the most powerful player in sports.
What drugs did this guy take? I was about to finish my thing, but I saw that one of my tweets I put out, which wasn't even one of my tweets. It was one of the. Well, I'll touch on it because it's related to the next story I have here. But what I'm trying to say is what I was saying before was that what drugs did this whole thing just reeks of somebody who is trying to get clicks online. He doesn't care about actually trying to tell a story. He wants to present a bold take so he looks like the top shit. Well, guess what, buddy? It failed miserably. Also, the most powerful black man in sports, Michael Jordan, LeBron James. I just completely ruined your whole point with just saying four words. Like, the most powerful player in sports, man. He beat the Raiders. The Raiders. He didn't even have like a great game. 209 yards and a touchdown, and he threw one interception. Not anything crazy, but like it's like the people that I swear to God, there has to be a thing in this world where, you know, we're selecting things just so we can talk about how great they are, and not even looking at the basics here. Like, it's just, like, it makes no sense whatsoever why we're doing this. This is such a stupid argument, and this is not the first time this last month that ESPN has been in the headlines because of some stupid comments. Drake May, ESPN threw a shit fit when Drake May talked about, you know, he talked about the whole thing about, there was a whole beef with ESPN and Drake May about the fact that Drake May doesn't even know what show Cam Newton is on. Now, if you don't remember, this happened about a couple weeks ago, but Cam Newton basically on First Take said that he downplayed May and the Patriots' success as fool's gold due to their relatively easy schedule, which, yeah, he's kind of true on that. I mean, you're not playing you're not playing any spectacular teams. The biggest win they had during that stretch was against the Buffalo Bills at the beginning of the season, that's a big win for them. Newton apparently wasn't tuned in for wins against the Buccaneers and Bills, which, then again, the Buccaneers on that, when they faced them, were not the strongest team that day, or the dismantling of an all-elite Browns defense. But then again, it's the Browns. The Browns are not a good football team either. May chose to somewhat take the high road by claiming ignorance of the whole ordeal, that his claim that he doesn't even know what channel Newton is on nowadays. This clearly got under the worldwide leaders' collective skin, as Stephen A. Smith got personal in his latest attack on May. Smith claimed that May is a complete liar, saying that First Take's prominence as a morning show makes it ubiquitous in the world of athletics, and any attempt to say May doesn't see Newton's comments is untrue. This is getting truly sad for the First Take crew. I didn't say that, but that's in this article here, because they're right. Like, Drake May basically said something about, I don't even know what show it's on. It's just like, the dude is not even making a big deal out of it. But the fact that he got so under ESPN's sin that Stephen A. Smith had to dedicate an entire segment on First Take to talk about how this show has got big ratings. It's just basically doing the thing that his predecessor Skip Bayless did back in the day. You don't believe me? Here is what they said. This is actually from First Take, and let me go ahead and try to find it here.
Hold on real quick. See, I got to stand on business right here, you know what I'm saying? Because I need him, as in Drake May, to understand this. Now, being in this position as a member of the media, there's a lot of things that are not always done.
Okay, this isn't going to show the thing. I'm trying to find the Stephen A. Smith segment where, I think this is it right here. Let me see. Yeah, this is it.
Tough, he's poised, and he's absolutely dynamic in the pass game. And this team, under Mike Vrabel, can win the AFC Championship.
He's also a liar. He's also a liar. First of all, let me tell you, it's not to brag, listen.
He's going to brag.
Pardon the Interruption is the #1 show on ESPN spanning 20-plus decades.
Okay, and what's your point? I get it. Stephen A. Smith pretty much runs ESPN at this point. He has all the money there. He can do and say whatever he wants to, but what's your point? Seriously, what does this have to do with anything that Drake May said about Cam Newton calling the Patriots fool's gold?
First Take is the #1 morning show, 13 years and counting.
Again, what's your point?
April will be 14 years. Don't tell me you an athlete and you don't know that. Don't tell me you an athlete and you don't know that Cam Newton ain't on the show. You're lying. That's #1. #2, I'm going to take it to a more serious tone with that, because I get where you're coming from, RC, and I don't disagree with you. But how about athletes looking out for athletes? I remember when there was a time when it was so much media that we were saying, athletes, once you're not playing anymore because of your expertise, y'all should be on TV. The opportunity should be there. One of the problems is sitting right in front of y'all, right? This is First Take. There's nothing that I know about football that they haven't taught me.
And Stephen A. doesn't know too much about football when you really think about it. I mean, let's be honest. He doesn't really know too much about this stuff. None of them really do on there. And it's just the whole purpose of talking about this whole thing is that with what Kendrick Perkins said, what Stephen A. Smith said, it just basically goes to the point that ESPN is desperate to make a story about anything. And that should make people worried about the inevitable purchase of the inevitable collaboration of ESPN and the NFL. Because if that's the case, this is going to continue when the NFL officially becomes part of ESPN. We're going to get more of these fluff pieces that make no sense whatsoever, these stupid takes that are just there for the clicks and views, and just basically continues to show that ESPN really does not know how to adapt to modern social media in general. It's just Like, it just baffles me when I first heard that the first time around. It makes no sense whatsoever. It's just, yeah, bottom line, it's just a really, really bad situation at ESPN that is not going to get any better, so take that for what you will. But with that said, let's continue on into the world of sports with a story going from a sports story that is extremely baffling for what one person said, but then another really odd situation for somebody who decides to retire, then unretire, and then realizes that he can't do it because he failed his physical with a very serious injury. Now, I'm of course talking about Frank Ragnow, and I want to show you something here. Cameraman, cut back to me here, because on my social media, there was a story right there. What does that mean? Community notes. And I was looking at this and going like, what does this mean? So I clicked on it, and I clicked on this because I retweeted this and sent it to Old Takes Exposed, and I just want you to look at the bottom where it says here, he is not back. And it even says when you go to the thing, for the context review here, he's not back. So I thought that was kind of amusing when I saw that there. It's just kind of like, wow, that is not a good sign right there. But if you don't know what's going on, that is Frank Ragnow. And Frank Ragnow, of course, was a Detroit Lions lineman for, when did he retire? He retired he actually retired earlier this year. He was there for 8 years. And there was a whole big story earlier in the week that Frank Ragnow was going to come back in the NFL and come back into the NFL and help the Detroit Lions out, who desperately need help on the offensive line. They made a big deal out of it, especially during the Thanksgiving game where they got their asses whooped by the Green Bay Packers, because Dan Campbell apparently doesn't know the meaning of the word stop going for it on fucking 4th downs, which I'll touch on more of that on the NFL Network, but that's a whole other thing altogether. But ESPN had this story yesterday. It said that 4-time Pro Bowler center Frank Ragnow has failed his physical and will not play for the Lions this season, the team announced Saturday. Ragnow was planning to come out of retirement, but after reporting to the facility Friday, Detroit medical team revealed that Ragnow had a grade 3 hamstring strain that would keep him from playing. Now, for those of you out there that don't know what a grade 3 hamstring strain is, I mean, it's essentially... A grade 3 hamstring injuries essentially fall into 3 grades of severity. A grade 1 is a minor hamstring strain. A grade 2 is a partial hamstring tear, and the grade 3 is a fully torn hamstring. It's a severe strain where your muscles are completely torn. So yeah, they made this decision without ever even realizing that Frank Ragnow had that much of a serious injury to him. They actually even put out a statement on Saturday when the news broke that Frank had always been a team-first guy and is a true warrior. He will forever be a Lion. Ragnow, 29, announced his retirement in June after 7 NFL seasons in which he battled through multiple injuries. The Lions still hold Ragnow's contractual rights to the 2026 season. Coach Dan Campbell was initially fired up about the possibility of Ragnow returning, but his future for 2026 has not been discussed. Ragnow had disclosed that he was dealing with a hamstring issue during discussions, but they didn't know the severity of the injury until the final physical. Of course, we're disappointed just because Frank is such a good dude and a good teammate, and he's a productive player, but at the same time, he's injured too. Campbell told reporters on video call on Friday. So, man, you quickly move off of that and know what it is, and he's not playing. So, yeah, they made a big deal about this beforehand. They put out this big thing on social media, which you saw in that clip there, that they said, like, welcome back to the team, Frank Ragnow. And then Saturday, this news comes out, and all the memes started coming out. Like, there's one where, Detroit had an image of Frank Ragnow coming out of the tunnel, and then somebody made a video of showing Frank Ragnow going back inside the tunnel afterwards, after this thing came out. So, yeah, it's basically just a clear situation here where it was just pretty much... It's just a pretty much bad situation overall, and it just makes the Detroit Lions situation look even worse now, because you have to keep doing this for the next 5 weeks, and the Lions right now are in serious trouble. Chicago just took the number 1 seed in the NFC after the Rams lost today. So yeah, and Green Bay's right behind them too. So they're in a lot of trouble right now, and this was the last thing they needed to happen to them. And yeah, it's really just it's just a really, really bad situation right now for the Detroit Lions, and it looks like it's going to keep getting worse before it gets any better for them. So there you go. That was something that happened earlier this week as well. So yeah, this is probably the most we're ever going to bring up President Trump on this show. I mean, I don't usually run into politics except if it's a big news story, and this week certainly has been filled with stories that feature him involved in it. And this one's not even really a story, but an op-ed on a Hollywood Reporter came out that was actually kind of interesting. Of course, South Park has been on the air for much of this year now, but it's been very much a different kind of run as usual. It's usually been episodes that come 2 weeks in between previous episodes. Half the season pretty much is already ended before the next season already starts without anyone ever telling anybody. But they have slowly but surely been going in hard on the Trump administration, and everyone looks at this and looks at what happened with Jimmy Kimmel and look at what happened with Stephen Colbert. Think to themselves, okay, so how much longer until it happens to the South Park guys? Well, there was an interesting story that popped up on the Hollywood Reporter about this. And it says, months after the second Trump administration took shape and the president's flurry of executive orders began to generate the chilling effects of potential authoritarianism, South Park fearlessly kicked off with an almost unbelievably shocking moment. Struggling through the desert, an actor portraying the president of the United States lying naked in sunstroke, desperate to deliver America's voters from temptation, listening to an endorsement message from his tiny talking penis. Months later, South Park's latest run now looks like it will conclude with the leader of the free world fathering the Antichrist via his extramarital affair with Satan. In between South Park's flapping head cutout depictions of Donald Trump, petulant, philandering, self-serving, and deceptive to all have been clandestine attempts to abort his unborn child and bedded his VP in the Lincoln bedroom and then manipulated the media into believing footage of the tryst was a mere deep fake. In a political era defined by Trump's reactionary takedowns of anything and everything that disagrees with his worldview, bruises his ego, or contradicts the MAGA agenda, an acid tongue post on X or Fireball over Truth Social post will be expected to land on the deaths of South Park mastermind Trey Parker and Matt Stone. Yet, as we've seen Trump during Trump's first presidential term, when the hit show uses its complex teacher character Mr. Garrison as a stand-in for Trump, the president has been radio silent in response to what has become without a doubt his harshest, most controversial, and hands-down funniest lampoonings. At the same time, he appears to go to great lengths to decimate the late-night comics who jab at him day after day in a campaign that seems to have taken one scalp and nearly taken another. In fact, for a decade, Trump has not been hesitant to launch midnight broadsides at everyone from Robert De Niro to Nordstrom. So what makes South Park, which has enjoyed record-breaking viewership across its last two back-to-back seasons, so untouchable in the vengeful eyes of the leader of the free world? Comic and actor Patton Oswalt recently offered an opinion on this in an episode of the Daily Beast podcast, The Last Laugh. The anti-MAGA comic, whose new audio-only special opens with a mock disclaimer that, to avoid the aforementioned authoritarian blowback, he's now a Trump loyalist, offered that blockbuster ratings and the almighty dollar are some of the few things that keep Trump's claws from coming out. South Park not only does it manage to make an insane amount of money, it also gets insane ratings. And Trump can only be so angry at that, because what Trump ultimately will respect, even if he doesn't respect him, is something where the numbers are through the roof and the money is through the roof, the comedian said, later adding, something that is as massive and as undeniable as South Park, both in quality, which people like you and I can see, but then in numbers and money, where Trump can see he just falls silent. If Colbert was making South Park money and getting South Park eyes on him, Trump wouldn't know what to do. Oswald may be correct here. We know from experience that the president has had an obsession with ratings. He's quick to point out real or perceived declines in ratings and audiences share when he's blasting his foes, whether they are subject to Nielsen ratings or not. Hell, he even said that himself in a candid campaign trail interview last year, telling a reporter, "There's only one thing that matters, ratings. You can be nice or you can be mean. You can be evil, you can be horrible, you can be crude or elegant. If you don't have ratings, it doesn't matter." The logic certainly applies to Trump's late-night takedown. The cornerstone of his tirades against Jimmy Kimmel was the declining ratings of his ABC show. The argument was also made by the president as CBS announced the shuttering of Stephen Colbert's show, but in his unique way, Trump managed to claim Colbert had low ratings, and in the same breath indicated he actually has the best late-night numbers. South Park's ratings in the Trump administration's centric latest season have been their best. The season 27 premiere episode drew the highest audience for a premiere episode since 1999 at 5.9 million viewers across Comedy Central and Paramount Plus in its first 3 days. The second episode, featuring a plastic surgery-ravaged Kristi Noem shooting puppies, garnered an even greater increase in initial air on Comedy Central, nearly doubling the premiere audiences with 838,000 live viewers and crossing platform viewership, hitting 6.2 million over 3 days. Those episodes also premiered in the days after it became clear that Parker and Stone had entered the billionaire class via the major streaming deal that they inked with Paramount, which includes an annual payment of $250 million for the production of new South Park content and a share of the streaming rights. So yeah, this whole thing in general is kind of fascinating to read here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing here when you really look at it. It's just really like, maybe it's really just as simple as that over long. Maybe that's why he's not trying to doing everything in his power to get rid of people like Jimmy Fallon or, Seth Meyers right now, even though he's been trying to get Seth Meyers canceled for the longest time. But maybe that's just something it's just a fascinating thing to think about when you really look at this whole thing in general here. But, I don't know. I found that kind of intriguing overall. Like I said, I'm not going to read the whole thing in general here, but you can check it out on the Hollywood Reporter. I'll put a link to it down below so you can read it for yourself. It's actually pretty fascinating to look at, So one last thing I want to cover here before we get on out of here is that this past week we had the long-awaited return of Stranger Things with its final season dropping the first 4 episodes of the final episodes of the show. We have 4 episodes now available. We'll have 3 more on Christmas Day, and then the finale will be available on New Year's Eve, which is supposedly also going to theaters as well, if I remember correctly, but I have to double-check that again. So just kind of a recap before we talk about where we're at right now. After the events of the 4th season in the fall of 1987, the group seeks to find and kill Vecna after the rifts open in Hawkins. The mission becomes complicated when the military arrives in Hawkins and begins hunting 11. As the anniversary of Will Byers' disappearance approaches, the group must fight one last time against a deadly threat. And as the season begins, we find out that 18 months after the rift incident happens, a contingent of the U.S. military, led by Dr. K, played by Linda Hamilton, and Lieutenant Akers, played by Alex Brow, had placed Hawkins under quarantine and created a base camp within the Upside Down while still on the hunt for 11, who trains in hiding with Hopper and Joyce. Wilt, Lucas, and Mike lay down during the military occupation, though Dustin continues to honor Eddie, to the provocation of the school basketball team. Steve, Robin, Jonathan, and Nancy work at a local radio station where they rely coded messages to the group about opportunities to sneak Hopper into the Upside Down that they call crawls to find Vecna's hideout. Dustin is viciously beaten at Eddie's grave, causing him to miss the next crawl, which goes awry when a Demogorgon attacks a military caravan, forcing Hopper to take shelter within the Upside Down. Will telepathically witnesses the attack and sees the Demogorgon head towards the Wheeler residence just as it tears open a gate in the bedroom of Mike and Nancy's young sister, Holly. That's basically what happens in the first episode overall, and that's kind of essentially where the show continues on at this point. And you expect the show to really come out on pull out all the stops here in their last episode with the last episodes here. And sure enough, with these first 4 episodes, they have done just that and then some. It's also important to know that the Duffer Brothers here, this is one of the last things they'll do before they eventually take over at Paramount. They go over there with the new deal that they signed there. And you have 3 of the 4 episodes written and directed by the Duffer Brothers, and one of them is directed by Frank Darabont. And so far so good with the first 3 episodes so far. The biggest thing about the show is that, kind of like with Game of Thrones, it really needs to figure out how to end the season on a high, end the series on a high note, and not really kind of fall off into really bad territory with an episode that ends the show on kind of a sour note. The cast once again shows a lot of great chemistry overall. I like the new additions they add in here with Linda Hamilton coming in as the Doctor in here. And it just really does give you everything you can ask for and then some, with the last episodes building up to what surely is going to be this big epic finale. And there's a lot of big shoes to fill, but there's a lot of big things that need to happen in the next 4 episodes to really give the show the proper ending it deserves. And I think they're definitely on the right track to doing so with these first 4 episodes overall. I think they're on their right way to something really good here. And hopefully they'll continue on at this point and make something really good out of the next couple episodes to come out. But yeah, like I said, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they do with the next couple of episodes that come out on Christmas Day, so we'll see what happens there. So let's go ahead and get to the recommendations for this week, and then we'll head on out of here. So there's only one major big new release coming out this week, and it's not even a newer movie, but it's a box set featuring some of the great classic cartoons of our time. I mean, Tom and Jerry, the classic Hanna-Barbera cartoons, they're now going to be put out in one big box collection finally, with the Tom and Jerry Golden Era Anthology set, which is coming out on both DVD and Blu-ray. And this is a set that includes all 114 Tom and Jerry cartoons, uncut and uncensored, from the Hanna-Barbera days, from 1940 to 1958. And, you know, I love Tom and Jerry. I love me some Tom and Jerry. Tom and Jerry is one of my favorite things that I used to watch as a kid growing up. A lot of us watched Tom and Jerry a lot when we were growing up. And so, yeah, this is definitely a box that I'm looking forward to getting my hands on sooner rather than later. Hopefully I can find it at a good price somewhere. But in terms of other releases, it's mostly just catalog titles. Stuff like Paul is coming out of 4K for the first time. Ted Lasso's coming out on 4K, if anyone's interested in that. I don't know why you wouldn't watch Ted Lasso in 4K, but who knows. Dawn of the Dead's got a nice-looking steelbook. The 2004 Zack Snyder remake. So does Wanted have a nice steelbook coming out. Pulp Fiction's getting re-released. Let's see, People Under the Stairs, Five Nights at Freddy's with the new movie coming up. Other than that, though, it's mostly just catalog titles and just stuff that's already been out for a while now, but is getting re-released into wider markets. So, stuff you want. So there's some stuff out there right now, but yeah, nothing really. The only thing I would really recommend getting is the Tom and Jerry box set, which I'm definitely going to get at some point too. But other than that, though, that's going to do it for this episode of the Reviewing Network Live this week. Of course, next week is Steel City Con, so that means we'll probably have a much lighter show than usual, as I'm recovering from cleanup day on Sunday, so that's something that's going to be for next week. But you'll see the video on the main channel too. But with all that said, though, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button. Check out some of the other episodes we've done, too. And with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you guys next week with another episode. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Until then, we are out.